your life.
Hi, everyone. Happy Friday, TGIF. I'm wearing this shirt in honor of Gloria Steinem. It was Gloria's 86th birthday. I'm going to move momentarily.
I think you're good for now.
I think we're good for now. If you guys can't hear or see me, will you let me know, and I'll move locations because I know the internet out here is pretty spotty. Anyway, a lot of people, I think, are kind of giving themselves permission to fall off the proverbial wagon and not eat in the most healthful ways. By the way, it's a beautiful day out here. I'm on Long Island. I hope the sun is shining where you are and that you guys are getting out and about because it's super important to get fresh air. You can walk or run by yourself. You can exercise, and you can actually get together with a friend as long as you practice social distancing, and that is staying 6 feet apart. Anyway, my friend Mark Hyman is going to join us because we asked for some questions for you all from social media, and we've got a bunch for Mark. And oh, there he is. Hey, Mark.
Hi, Katie. How's it going?
Oh, gosh. Okay. How are you doing? First of all, where are you?
I'm in my house in Massachusetts
Oh, gosh.
on 20 acres, lots of space and land.
Wow.
Trying to just sort of figure out how to contribute to some sanity for everybody within the chaos that's going on.
Well, I think all of us are trying to do that, Mark, and I really appreciate you spending a couple of minutes with me. How's the weather there today?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's sunny. It's 50 degrees. It's gorgeous. It's really nice.
It is nice. I mean, I guess looking on the bright side, this could have happened in the middle of winter where people get, get depressed anyway. But the fact that we're lucky to have some sunshine. Have you been talking, by the way, on a serious note, before we talk about how everyone can keep healthy and keep their immune system strong? Have you been hearing much from your doctor friends in hospital settings, and how are they doing?
Yeah,
Because I'm obviously thinking about them 24/7.
It's true. I'm very connected to our team at Cleveland Clinic, and it's basically a war zone there. I mean, everybody's hunkering down, preparing for the onslaught of the wounded coming in, and in New York City, my friends in the healthcare system are just struggling. And the biggest threat I see is that we have not given our healthcare workers adequate protection. In China, there is not a single healthcare worker that died after the initial few because they had protective equipment, and our healthcare workers are not provided that protective equipment, and it's one of the biggest catastrophes because if they go down, then there's nobody to take care of anybody. And we're in trouble. So our healthcare system is already buckling, and if we lose healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, all the staff within the hospital, it's a threat. So whatever we can do to get those personal protective gear out to people is just so critical.
I hope that they're getting it soon. It is a travesty and infuriating. I talked to Peter Attia last week for my podcast that I think I recorded early last week, and he said the biggest concern is losing hospital staff, that we desperately need to take care of the people who are sick. And it's just a very tough situation. You can only imagine, as you said, the chaos that's going on in hospitals, especially in New York City, but I'm assuming in other hospitals as well. How are you hearing from friends like from Mass General?
Yeah, well, I'm more tied into Cleveland Clinic, and there's 6 healthcare workers that have been providers that actually have been sick in Cleveland Clinic alone. There's over 40 workers who've been sick. So I think that if we don't get on this like yesterday, we're facing an even bigger threat, because who's going to be there in the ICUs to take care of people? Who's going to be there in the hospitals? I think it's really an urgent problem, and it's kind of tragic, Katie, because this is not a surprise. This is not something we couldn't see coming. I remember reading that in World War II, Ford Motor Company converted to making B-24 bombers, and they made a bomber every 63 minutes. I mean, if they can make a bomber every 63 minutes, why can't we make masks and gloves and protective gear and gowns and all the things that our healthcare workers deserve and need? I mean, they're the heroes out there taking care of these patients, and I just feel like this is really urgent, and it's not being addressed enough.
I heard from one doctor in New Orleans a few days ago. I've been trying to get her to talk to me on an Instagram Live, where she said she had lost a few colleagues I mean, we're
Yeah,
talking about people who have died of this. I don't know how many healthcare providers have passed away as a result of this pandemic. Do you know?
I don't know, but it's probably in the dozens is at this point. I mean,
Well, she said she had lost colleagues, and colleagues were writing wills, young
yeah.
medical professionals, doctors and nurses, and videotaping things for their children. It's just completely unacceptable. And I know I've mentioned on this to my followers, Bethany Frankel and people like that have been working super hard to raise money. She has a foundation that responds to disasters, and I think she has sent millions of masks, but she's trying to get it to underfunded hospitals because some of these other hospitals should be able to pay for them and to not necessarily take up the donations. I think she told me she'd sent $1 million to New York. So God bless her and other people, other private citizens who are trying to come up with solutions to this problem. But you're right. I mean, it is a real 911 situation, and we need to get on its stat. But
Because and the reason why, Katie, particularly people may not understand, is just the exponential growth of the cases. So we're in a lag right now. We're seeing it's bad, but it's going to get much worse. At Cleveland Clinic, we're projecting that the majority of the problem is going to be late May and June in terms of the overburdening of hospitals. So we have a little bit of time, but we really need to get our healthcare workers protected.
absolutely, you're so right about that. Anyway, well, for a lot of people at home who are sheltering in place or, quarantining themselves voluntarily, and or with a mandate from the state government, I think a lot of people are really trying to stay as healthy as they can.
Mm.
But a lot of people, Mark, as you know, are stressed out. They're anxiety ridden. They're worried about their friends, their families, all their loved ones. And as a result, I think a lot of people are stress eating.
Yeah.
And kind of giving themselves license to get comfort, honestly, from food. I find myself, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm not being sort of as strict. And so basically, Mark Hyman, Dr. Hyman,
Katie's frozen. Oh, there we are.
we're going to go inside, Mark.
Oh, good.
We're going to
Okay.
go inside.
Okay. Yeah, you were frozen.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, it looked too nice and pretty out there.
Yeah, I thought maybe it would cheer people up if we could be outside and in the sunshine. But here, hi, I'm back.
You look like you're about to go farming and plant a garden.
Well, you know what? Actually, it's pretty sunny here, and I sat outside for a minute trying to get some much needed vitamin D.
Yeah.
And basically, I got a little bit of a sunburn, so I want to protect my skin. So,
yeah.
But now that I'm inside. But anyway, as I was saying, what's sort of a rule of thumb for people who are just eating everything that's not nailed down?
Well, I think what people need to realize is that, for your own health and for protecting our community at large, it's important for us to take care of our health because, one, we know that sugar and starch and processed food are immune suppressive, that they're going to actually make your body less able to fight the coronavirus. So for your own self-interest, the important thing is to eat a lot of protective foods that are going to boost immunity, that are going to make you more resilient, less likely to get sick, and to not eat all the stuff that you think is comfort food, but is actually going to make you more sick. And it's also, important for the bigger problem, which is the burden on the healthcare system. Because if more of us don't take care of ourselves, more of us suppress our immunity by not doing the things we need to do for self-care and food in particular, we're going to get sick. We're going to go to the healthcare system. We're going to burden the hospitals, and it's going to be worse. So I think there's an argument to be made both, for your own health and as well as a social conscience to actually focus on taking care of your own health. And I think there are a lot of ways to eat delicious comfort food. So for example, I made the other night like pasta, right? But I used chickpea pasta, which is high in protein. There's no gluten. And I made this incredible, puttanesca, which was very cheap. Very cheap. It was called the whore's pasta from Naples, which is essentially,
Right.
Anchovies and capers and olives and tomatoes and olive oil and garlic and onions. And it's incredibly warm and comforting. And you can make delicious food. I made chicken soup, which was, again, lasted us for 4 days with one chicken and tons of root vegetables. So it doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to even take that long. But I think now is the time when we have time at home, when we can get still fresh food, when we actually can cook a little bit. Because if people start using this time at home that they were commuting or driving to work, or people are off work, starting self-care is going to make you happier, you less depressed,
Right.
you feel better, and also make it much less likely you're going to get sick, or if you get sick, are going to be able to fight it off.
I know we paused for a moment. I just want to repeat the two top things, which was basically Mark, you guys, was saying that sugar and, high fructose corn syrup and all the kind of junk sugar is really it suppresses your immune system.
Yeah.
So it's not good to eat a lot of sugar. And that's something to remember, because honestly, I have a sweet tooth, Mark. So it's sort of hard for me to stay away from sugar. But I guess there are some things that are less bad for you if you have a sweet tooth, right? You can bake an apple or what other things to satisfy my cookie pangs.
Sure. And you can make healthier versions of stuff for sure. You can, I have all kinds of recipes in my cookbooks that are healthy desserts. So you don't have to be completely without, but I think the key is just the amount of starch and sugar we eat is a huge problem. And particularly the easy processed, pre-prepared foods also have a lot of salt in them. And salt, it turns out, also suppresses your immune system. Not the kind you add to your food, but all the stuff that's in processed food that's added by all these corporations that are trying to make the food taste good. That's just a bunch of garbage. Otherwise, it will taste horrible if you don't put a lot of salt and sugar and refined fat in there.
Well, maybe my followers and I can really try to sort of do a no sugar challenge. My followers are saying they have sweet tooth too.
Yeah.
They're saying stevia and some things like that. How do you feel about stevia?
A little bit's fine. I actually, I have an offer a free program for doing a sugar detox on my website. It's, if you go to Get Pharmacy, that's GET Pharmacy with an F-A-R-M-A-C-Y. It's called a 10-day reset. It's a great time to do it because it's really full of nutrient-dense foods. It gets rid of all the crap. It helps reset your immune system, reset your gut, and it's free. And you can just sort of download the guide on how to do it. And it's really about time to actually people take care of it. Because the other thing, Katie, people don't realize is that people who are dying from this are the ones who are chronically ill. The people who have heart disease are 10 times more likely to die. Diabetes, 7 times more likely to die. If you're overweight, if you're obese, you're 3 times more likely to die from COVID. So now is the time to get control of your health, because the chronic disease burden we have is enormous. It affects 6 out of 10 Americans. 42% of us are obese. And now's the time to actually focus in on self-care and taking care of yourself. We have the time. We can, there's plenty of internet instructional videos on cooking. I'm posting some cooking stuff and showing what I'm eating every day. I think it's really time for us to do that.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And getting, having the time to actually talk. Someone asked if you talked about vitamins. Are there any supplements? I'm going to throw you some questions I got from social media, but I'm happy to hear. Yes, that's true. Sugar is more addictive than cocaine. People can watch Fed Up, a documentary I did probably 6 years ago with Mark, and he was featured in the documentary, but it's all about sugar and the hidden sugar in so many foods.
Yeah.
You have to read the label, and the amount of sugar we're getting just eating regular food is pretty astronomical.
Yeah. It's like 152 pounds a year per person, and flour is about 130 pounds per person, which is actually worse for your blood sugar than actually table sugar. So we eat about a pound a day on average per person in America, and it's time to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially now, it's a good time. One of the things, what about, the other thing is I Hi Charlie, my friend Charlie's watching. I think also, is it important to keep on a schedule? Because I
Yeah.
find myself, I go through this where I deprive myself and then I get super hungry and then I make bad choices. I'm in that vicious
Yeah.
cycle. So should people try to eat healthy meals and not obviously snacking throughout the day? Or where do you stand on that?
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a very unstructured time for a lot of people. They're at home, they're not used to it, they don't have a routine. And I think building a structure and a routine is so important. And I think regular meal times, regular times for self-care. I think there's so many things that help your immune system. Food is number one, meditation and relaxation, dealing with the stress, finding ways to do that, whether it's a hot bath or meditation or breathing technique or with yoga, whatever it is, that's critical. Sleep, getting enough sleep is critical. Exercise, you can go
And
outside.
sugar can interfere with your sleep, and so can too much alcohol. I
Yeah,
know the alcohol business is doing gangbusters, but
yeah, yeah.
we should just remind people that alcohol is a depressant.
It's a
And
depressant and also bad for your immune system. Yeah,
so please, you guys, watch your drinking, even though we all probably feel like it. Just to review the supplements, a lot
yeah,
of people are talking about vitamin C. They're talking about zinc. They're talking, I know you're a big proponent of vitamin D, which I was trying to get outside in the sunshine. We'll keep this available on Instagram so everyone can watch it if they're not watching it live. But what are your suggestions quickly for supplements?
sure. I think the basics. A good multivitamin is great. You can take extra vitamin C, maybe a little extra zinc. Moderate amounts of vitamin D, maybe 1,000 units a day. I think there's some interesting data about the probiotics and the gut health. I want to talk about that for a minute because that's really important. And there's other supplements like quercetin and N-acetylcysteine that can be helpful in immune function. People are talking about melatonin as something that may be a reason why kids are not getting it. I think we still don't know for sure, but it definitely helps with immune function. And I think, looking at our foods as a source of nutrients, right? Pumpkin seeds are rich in zinc. Brazil nuts are rich in selenium. Lots of fruits and vegetables are rich in vitamin C. We can eat if we like it. My wife won't eat it, but I got lots of herring and mackerel, which are full of
Yeah.
vitamin D.
But you could do salmon, I guess, canned salmon.
Yeah, salmon doesn't have as much vitamin D, but herring
Oh,
is.
it doesn't.
And if you like porcini mushrooms, you can buy those. Those have a lot of vitamin D. So, but I think it's important for people to understand that the food is important. And then there's incredible spices that have immune properties. So I've been cooking with lots of ginger and turmeric and garlic and delicious foods that actually are so good for you and taste good and help your immune system.
Yeah, we made this delicious. I didn't. My daughter and her friend and our friend Adriana made that. What was that? Allison Roman's chickpea. It didn't have turmeric in it and ginger, and it's delicious, Mark. You should make
Yeah.
it. I think you guys would really like it. I think Mark just said sardines. Sardines are high in vitamin D.
Yeah, they have some vitamin D. Zinc, herring is good. Herring is the best.
Yeah.
Actually, herring, I bought some fresh herring once from Russ and Daughters, and I brought it home. I love herring because I'm Jewish. And I had a yellow lab, and he would eat anything, literally anything. And I tried to feed it to him, and he wouldn't eat it. So,
Well, it's okay. Gosh, people are just asking so many questions. And I guess people are asking about that apple cider vinegar, Dr. Bragg's apple cider vinegar, asking about sorts of things, turmeric, dark berries, they're
yeah.
saying are the best. You know, basically,
Well, one of the tips I think people don't realize is your gut is such a big thing for your immune system because 60% of your immune system is in your gut, and it's important to do things that are going to help your gut. And you can eat probiotic and prebiotic foods. That's a great thing to focus on. So prebiotic foods are things like asparagus and artichokes and jicama and dandelion greens, bananas, plantains. These are all very rich in prebiotics that are the fertilizer for the good bugs in your gut. And then probiotic foods are things like sauerkraut and kimchi and tempeh and miso and natto and yogurt and kefir. These things are really great because you want to keep your gut healthy. And that's where 60% of your immune system is. And a lot of us are very inflamed because our guts are a problem. And the more inflamed you are when you get COVID-19, the worse your outcomes are going to be. So taking care of your gut is a good way to actually bolster your immune system to prevent getting problems.
So someone said Greek yogurt, and someone again asked about apple cider vinegar. Can you just weigh in on those two things?
Apple cider vinegar, yeah. I mean, I think, it doesn't have any magical properties, but it's fine to take. I think people often find it helpful for digestion. And
Yeah.
what was the second question about?
Oh, about Greek yogurt.
Oh, Greek yogurt. Yeah, I mean, any kind of fermented food is great. So whether it's Greek yogurt, but make sure it doesn't have sugar in it and all this other crap. You can make yogurt at home. I mean, people have lots of
Someone
time
just
now.
said that.
I mean, it's so easy. You buy some real good yogurt at the store, and you heat your milk up. And I forget the temperature, like 105 degrees. Get some organic milk. You put the yogurt in, and you put it in a big jar, and you stick it, in the oven, but with no temperature on, and just let it sit there for 24 hours, and you'll have an amazing amount of yogurt for nothing.
What about taking probiotics, Mark, if you can't get them in food?
Yeah, there are certain probiotics that actually are seemingly helpful for the immune system, certain bacillus species and others like the Bacillus plantarum. So I think taking a good probiotic is a great idea in general. And I think now it will help bolster people's immune system. But I think, I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that focusing on the 4 pillars of health is really important. Food, sleep, exercise, stress reduction, and the supplements are just that, a supplement.
Okay, let's talk about these. Let me go through these questions because I don't want to take too much of your time. Although I love hearing about this stuff, and people should follow Mark on Instagram and on his website because he always has such good, important information. Whenever you write something for Wake Up Call, Mark, our daily newsletter, you all should subscribe. If you haven't, you just go to katiecouric.com. Mark is a frequent contributor, and his articles always do so well. People are so interested in this, and I think understandably scared. So here's a question. Would it be helpful to continue taking NAD plus? I don't even know what that is.
NAD is a supplement that's been getting a lot of research about healthy aging, and it has a big role to play in the mitochondria, which are the energy factories. So it's sort of a longevity supplement. I think it's fine to take. I don't think it's going to have any great impact on your ability to fight COVID-19, but I think the things we did talk about are so important. And I think, I just kind of want to go back to reiterate how important eating a whole foods healthy diet is for you right now, because it'll help reverse chronic diseases that you have, which make you more likely to die from COVID. And it'll help you be more resistant to getting it. And it'll help you stay out of the hospitals where other people need care. So this is the moment to, both for yourself and for the greater community we live in our country, to actually start to take care of yourself, because it's not just a personal issue. It's a national issue.
Someone who follows me, GB Hooks, who asks, I've read alcohol decreases immunity, but gosh, a glass of wine is nice these days.
Yeah, of course.
What is that? Is there a healthy amount that you can drink that you don't need to feel guilty?
Yeah, for sure. So last night, my wife and I, we had dinner. I was kind of in a difficult day, just getting things done. And we played backgammon, and I poured a little bit of tequila. I had a nice little shot of tequila. So I think having a glass is fine. And a glass means an ounce of liquor, 5 ounces of wine, 10 ounces of beer. And that's what a glass serving is. It's not, a whole big chunk. So I think. How
about 2?
Well, it's fine. I think if you're eating a good diet and you're overall healthy and you're having a glass of wine or 2, it's probably fine. I probably wouldn't do it every day, but certainly is good.
Someone just asked if dairy is inflammatory.
Good question. The answer is yes, it can be. And the short story is that most of our cows now have been bred in a way that produces much more inflammation and something called A1 casein, which is the form of protein in the milk. And that is very inflammatory. Sheep and goat dairy have A2 casein, which is not inflammatory. So I tend to have goat cheese, sheep yogurt, as opposed to cow. And there are actually some cows that are A2 cows, but they're heirloom cows. It's hard to find. But often you can find sheep yogurt or sheep or goat cheese.
Okay, but in limited amounts, usually
Somebody
dairy is
wrote,
okay.
Dr. Hyman approved tequila.
All right, let me ask some other quick questions. Someone's asking, do you recommend any foods and or vitamins to keep moods up and stave off depression? That's
Yes,
interesting.
yes, 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 yes. So, like I said, the things that cause depression is inflammation. Inflammation in the brain is being discovered in people who are depressed, and it's a sort of a striking finding. So, if you're eating an inflammatory diet, which is processed food, sugar, starch, all the things we talked about, refined oils, you're going to get more risk of depression. If you're eating a more whole foods diet, it's going to help, and particularly things that have dark green leafy vegetables are full of folate, which helps the depression. Foods with B12 are really important. So animal foods with B12, like eggs or just meat has B12 in it. B6 is really important for mood and making serotonin. You can get that from a lot of plant foods as well as like chicken liver is probably one of the best sources. People don't like chicken livers, but I grew up on them. And
Yeah. I like them too. Is that weird?
yeah, it's great. I mean, it's such a cheap food. I mean, I'm actually making food that's very inexpensive, that is really delicious, that's really comforting, and it's easy to do. And I think people have to learn how to cook again in America. We basically watch more cooking on television than we actually spend time cooking. But now is the time to get in the kitchen. So there's also foods that are really important with magnesium, because magnesium and low levels of magnesium play a role, particularly things like almonds and nuts and seeds have more magnesium. Also, vitamin D plays a big role in mood and depression. And, if the problem is, it's hard to get enough vitamin D through your skin. If you're south of Atlanta and you go out and, in 20 minutes during the day, you can cover your face with sunblock or your hat so you don't get on your face, but have a bathing suit on and be in the sun for 20 minutes between 10 and 2. You'll get a lot of sun and vitamin D. But otherwise, most of us need to take a little bit of vitamin D because it plays a big role in depression. They call it SAD, seasonal affective disorder.
Right.
All
My
that has to,
doctor just prescribed a monthly supplement because I was below, I guess the number, you can get your vitamin D tested and I was below the number. I think you want to be 34 or over, but people should maybe next time they get a physical, get their vitamin D levels
absolutely.
checked, right?
But there's no harm in just taking like 1,000 a day or 2,000 a day. The government says you can take up to 4,000 a day without any risk. So I think people should be getting vitamin D. I mean, 80% of us are deficient.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I think they're trying to figure out if vitamin D plays a role because I'm probably going off on a tangent, but in some places, for example, multiple sclerosis is more prevalent in places that get less sun. Have you ever heard that, Mark?
Yes, for sure. We know very clearly that in northern latitudes, multiple sclerosis is much more common, and there's a link to vitamin D. Somebody posted something which is going around our professional circles about vitamin D being a problem with coronavirus. And here's what I would say. There's a lot of technical science around the way in which coronavirus works, and it works often by activating something called ACE2 receptors, which then create a cascade of problems in the lungs that cause worsening outcomes. And vitamin D, one of its actions is also to upregulate these receptors. But there's a lot of mixed data out there. I've been looking at the literature showing that it can help prevent bad outcomes in people with severe respiratory illness, which this is what we call ARDS, or acute respiratory distress syndrome. So
Right.
we do see that there's sort of a mixture. I would say take vitamin D, don't OD on it. Don't take 10,000, take 1,000, 2,000, that's fine. I wouldn't worry about it.
And again, what foods are high in vitamin D?
Well, it's interesting, Katie, we all evolved with coastal areas, right? We all ate a lot of fish and we foraged for mushrooms, and that's where most of the food vitamin D is. And also we ran around, pretty much half naked most of the time as hunter-gatherers. So we got a lot of vitamin D that way. Most of us, it's going to be hard to get enough from food.
From food.
So mushrooms are a source, and so is these fatty fish like herring.
Like the aforementioned herring. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the point is it's hard to get it in food.
Yeah, it's hard to get it from food. I mean, you can get it from sun, but you need a lot of sun. So
Okay.
if you're a lifeguard, you're good. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Let me go and ask some more questions because people are nice enough to submit them. I get a lot of questions when I do these about people with asthma. I think I think it's scary. It's scary for people who have asthma. And are people with asthma more susceptible to this virus, Mark?
Yeah, yes. Anybody with respiratory illness, whether it's asthma or emphysema, they're much more likely to have a problem. And asthma is an inflammatory disease. And from a functional medicine perspective, and for those who don't know what functional medicine is, essentially is a system of getting to the root cause of disease and treating the system. We know that a lot of our dietary habits drive asthma. Gluten and dairy are among the two most important drivers of asthma. So if you have asthma, today's a good day to stop gluten and dairy, at least for the duration here, and see how it affects you. Also, gut.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Your gut plays a role. So all the things I talked about, pre and probiotic foods, getting your gut healthy is really important in asthma. Taking adequate levels of zinc and vitamin C will help. But the biggest thing I would say for asthma patients is gluten and dairy and getting your gut healthy. Those two things can really reduce the inflammation. Now, we're doing a big asthma trial at Cleveland Clinic with functional medicine, and we're seeing very positive results.
And in the spring, is your asthma worse because of pollen and things like that?
Yeah, so a lot of people can get environmental asthma, right? So it's not all diet, but whatever's going on in your gut and your diet is going to make whatever is on the outside more impactful and hurt you more. So in other words, if you have a bad gut and you're eating a lot of gluten, dairy, and sugar, your asthma is going to be more problematic when you're exposed to pollen or dust or animals or anything else.
What about vitamin C? I don't know if we mentioned that. A lot of people are talking about fresh orange juice. They're talking about vitamin C.
Not orange juice. No. Eat your vegetables, take vitamin C.
Sugar in it.
Too much sugar, yeah. But it's interesting, Katie. In China, they use vitamin C intravenously and had very good impact on outcomes in patients with COVID-19. So it's actually also been used in the United States as undergoing trials for sepsis. So people who are in ICUs who are dying, as a last resort, they give them extremely high dose of vitamin C intravenously, and it seems to help. So we're seeing the same thing with COVID-19, and we're offering that in our clinic. We're offering intravenous vitamin C for prevention and to help people boost their immune systems. I think there's some good literature on this, and I think it's something that actually was tried in China and was effective, and they did study it. So I think we can explore it because it's one of those therapies that has a low risk and a potential benefit, unlike chloroquine, which may have benefit, but also has significant risks. So
with heart, I understand that drug can be very hard on the heart. So I mean,
it can cause arrhythmias and heart palpitations and bad heart rhythms. Yeah. So it's not.
Hey, Mark, what about vitamin C supplements? I mean, a lot of people aren't going to go in to get an IV of vitamin C.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's top of the list. Top of the list of vitamin C.
How much?
1,000, 2,000, 3,000. If you take too much, you'll get diarrhea, but it's very safe. It's a water soluble vitamin. It's not going to hurt you. You can take, 1 to 4,000 milligrams a day. And I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay. Let me go on and ask some more questions. This is really interesting. Oh, a couple of people have asked about elderberry. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of research on elderberry, sambuca. It's actually controversial, and I've been trying to follow the literature, looking at pros and cons. Some experts are saying yes, some experts are saying no. I think the truth is, we're all guessing. Like there hasn't been any large randomized controlled trials on any of this stuff, and a lot of the concerns are theoretical. In my view, if you're moderate in what you're doing, I think it's fine. And I think it's a reasonable thing to try.
Okay. This is okay. Then I'm going to ask you the final, I'm going to ask you about 3 more questions. I think this is such a good question, and I can relate to this person because a lot of people are really worried about their parents. I've lost both of my parents, but John's parents are living, and I I do worry about them. They're very healthy. They don't have underlying conditions, but it's just nerve wracking. And this viewer or follower said, my dad's doctor said his immunity is low. What can he eat, drink to help? He's 73.
Yeah, well,
If you had a 73-year-old dad, what would you have him be doing?
I'd make him chicken soup. I think it's all the things we've been talking about. It's just really focus on a nutrient dense diet, taking basic supplements, doing the social isolation, distancing measures, taking your vitamin D, your vitamin C, your zinc, and really just focusing on the same things we've been talking about for the last half hour. Yeah.
Whole foods and healthy
adequate
food.
protein is important too, because as we get older, our protein nutrition is often less, and we need more protein as we get older.
Well, you lose so much muscle mass. We've talked about that.
It's true, yeah. And what happens is that protein is critical for your immune system, because all your antibodies are made from protein. That's why when you see in the developing world, people are dying from relatively minor diseases, respiratory diseases, diarrheal diseases that really shouldn't kill you, but they're dying because they have protein malnutrition. And so adequate protein is really important for people as they get older to boost their immune system.
That's good to know. Someone asked about intermittent fasting. I wondered about that too. I know that's something you and I talked about on our podcast, but is now a bad time to do intermittent fasting?
I think it depends. I mean, listen, what does that mean? Intermittent fasting means like a whole day of fasting. Probably not great, but time restricted eating is fine. We should all be having a 12-hour break between dinner and breakfast, right? That's just, you eat at 6, 7, eat the next morning at 7. It's not that hard. You want to extend it a little bit to 9 or to 11, that's okay too. I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. And for people who have metabolic issues, who are obese or overweight, it's really important to get that weight off, to get your immune system working better, to get yourself resilient and healthy. So I think that's a great strategy.
Yeah, now is not the time to put on the LBs for a lot of different reasons. So need to tell the pants that I can't get it on right now. They haven't gotten
we can talk
offline,
yet. Katie. I can give you some hints.
Now let me ask you about grocery. Okay, so people are asking about exercising. Yes, exercise. I was reading an article today, I think in Wired or in some publication, about just doing stuff around the house when you're watching TV. Stretch, do some sit-ups, you guys. Like, keep moving and get outside, walk. I'm trying to get my 10,000 steps in every day.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stretch. I'm trying to do sort of yoga stretches when I can. So everybody, please, it's so important to keep physically active during this period. Okay, so we're about to wrap up, because I also want to take a walk, because I haven't done my 10,000 steps. And I'm sure you'd be willing to answer more questions. You guys follow Mark on Instagram. Sure. If you want to DM him and ask questions, he's super responsive. But and maybe we'll put some of these in Wake Up Call, which I want you all to please subscribe to, because we've got a team working so hard to get you the news every single morning in your inbox, and they do a fantastic job. That's right, planks. Getting on an elevator, I would use your elbow or cover.
Take the stairs.
Yeah, take the stairs. That's a good answer. Okay, grocery shopping. Some of my friends have been sending me videos. I believe one from a doctor. I forget where he's from. And then I had a whole new reason to freak out. And that is, I'm trying not to go to the grocery store very much. But when you go and you buy food at the grocery store, if you want to protect yourself, are there things that you should be doing and I'm going to ask about ibuprofen, because I've asked everybody this question. We'll see what Mark thinks about that. Tylenol versus Advil if you're not feeling well. Because there's a lot of misinformation, I think, but who knows? But first, groceries. What should we be doing, Mark, when we go to the grocery store? Should we be leaving bags outstairs? Should we wash I wash it anyway, but give me some tips.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you go, you have to be careful, right? You could wear gloves, you could bring wipes and wipe down the cart, which I've done. So, I went to Walmart the other day and they had, sterilization wipes. You could wipe all the carts in and out. I think when you get home, you want to wash the food. If it's in packages, and just, be careful. You can use gloves to unwrap it, throw it out. I think it, you need to be cautious, but not crazy. I think, the likelihood is very low. You're going to get it from vegetables. But I think washing them is fine, and you can do it in different vinegar, for example, vinegar solutions, or very, very low concentration of lipid peroxide. So there's a lot of things that could be, hydrogen peroxide to wash off your vegetables. So there's a lot of ways to do that. So I think, we have to do our best. Like, we can order stuff online. We can get frozen meats and vegetables. There's great online grocers. So I think there's a lot of ways to do that. We've been doing a lot of that. So just be careful.
But should you try to keep the packaging, like you're hearing about people at Amazon being diagnosed with this, then you start to think, oh God, well, the person who packed this may have left it.
So my wife and I, so we're a team. So she goes out there, puts gloves on, she opens it up, I pull it out from the inside, and I just it's probably likely to be sort of alive on that for that many days, and then we kind of wash it off and we're done.
I guess there's so little known about this virus. I think that's what's sort of scary, that that you don't know how long it stays on surfaces. We hear all kinds of things. And where do you come down in closing, Mark, on the whole controversy about ibuprofen versus acetaminophen, which is basically Advil versus Tylenol? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I've been reading the reports early on. There were some cases where they did use a lot of ibuprofen and anti-inflammatories, and people did worse. But I think there's a lot that we just don't know. And I think, taking a lot of Tylenol may not also be a good idea, because it depletes glutathione, which is really important for regulating inflammation and so forth. So I think, we have to control our symptoms best we can, but I think we should probably be cautious about it if we can, and just kind of use other remedies.
Okay. Well, I think the jury's out is basically the bottom line on that, right, Mark?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like on about so many things when it comes to this whole virus. Well, how can I encourage people if they want to ask you more questions, Mark?
Well, they can go to, you can just follow me on Instagram and social media at Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Mark Hyman. And I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, drhyman.com. I'm writing blogs. I'm doing a lot of webinars. I'll be doing more Q&As like this. So just stay tuned, and people can learn more about this evolving situation.
That's right. And, if people want to get questions and send them to me, my followers, I'll make sure that I put them together, and we can send them to you, Mark. And maybe you could have a section in Wake Up Call. I think people are really, really interested in all this right now. And I hope the silver lining, if there is one, that people may take positive steps and that will actually make them healthier than they were when this whole thing started.
Yeah, I think that's my hope, is that this is a wake-up call, that we need to deal with the chronic disease epidemic, which affects 6 out of 10 of us, that it makes us more susceptible to all sorts of things, including viruses, and that it's really burdening our healthcare system in a way that we can't tolerate it. And those problems are becoming clear right now. And hopefully, as this fades away, we're going to get reinvigorated about taking care of the real long-term problems we have around chronic disease and obesity in this country.
Definitely. And speaking of Wake Up Call, everybody subscribe to our newsletter, because our editors and writers are working super hard. My podcast is called Next Question. We're devoting it to the coronavirus the next several episodes. Mark is called Pharmacy. What is yours called again?
Doctor's Pharmacy with an F.
Doctor Pharmacy with an F. Mark never learned how to spell, apparently, in medical school.
No,
actually,
pharmacy.
It's farm to table, right?
No, it's food. Food is medicine, right?
Oh, there you go. Duh.
Right.
Anyway, thanks, Mark. I always love talking to you. Thanks for spending time.
Okay.
I hope this was helpful to you all.
Yeah. And Katie's coming on my podcast next week too. We're going to record a podcast.
Yeah, that's right. And Mark, maybe we can do this again. If you guys like this and you want us to do it again and answer some more of your questions, please let me know. I'm happy to talk to Mark anytime, and we've got time to do it right now. So please let us know if you like it. I'm going to go for a walk. Everybody exercise, and eat right. And Mark, thank you. Lots of love to you.
Okay.
Okay, bye.